All right, here we go. Ready?
And
Here we go. All right, continue the conversation with co-founder of saleswithsystems.io, Mr. Thad Barnes, my good buddy, LinkedIn automation secrets expert. We're going to talk today about how to use Sales Navigator, which is the key piece to making all these automation things work. So take it away, Thad. Let's talk about Sales Navigator.
yeah, well, thanks again for having me, Sam. I'm really enjoying these conversations, and it's something I don't get to do enough of, so I really appreciate it. I feel like we're on a podcast.
Welcome anytime. We can turn this into a podcast, whatever.
But yeah, in terms of Sales Navigator, it is really the fuel on the fire of prospecting and outreach on LinkedIn. Can you do it without Sales Navigator? Absolutely. Is it can you get started without it? Yes, absolutely. But when you're ready to throw fuel on the fire, Sales Navigator is the way to go. They do offer a 30-day trial without paying, so it's a great way that once you're at that point, sign up for the trial and really take off for the first 30 days. Sign a client or two, and then that will have paid for Sales Navigator and a whole bunch of other stuff for your business. So I think that the typical way that people use Sales Navigator is they start with the leads category. And when you log into Sales Navigator, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's leads and there's accounts. And you can search for either one. And the typical fashion is to just search for leads. I want to find real estate agents in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And, I'm looking for people that kind of are in commercial real estate as a sub niche, let's say. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great way to get started. But how then do you filter people that either have their own agency, so they're solopreneurs, or they're their own real estate agent and broker at the same time? Mm-hmm. Or how do I find people that have, maybe a larger company, maybe they're already in the $1 million range of revenue in a year. So you can't do that with a leads list in Sales Navigator. It's not possible. You can't see the revenue numbers. So one of the things that we do is we start with account searches. And what that allows you to do is search for businesses first. Yep. So think of this, if you're familiar with cold calling, think of this as getting through the gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. So I want to find, like, let's say you're an ad agency and you know that somebody that just started a dropshipping store yesterday because they saw a course on Facebook. They have zero money to invest. They want to grow their business. They want to learn, but let's face it, they can't pay you. They can't pay you to run the ads for them. Think of account searches within Sales Navigator as filtering those people out. So I'm going to look for companies first that are doing, $5 to $10 million in revenue, have 15 to 20 employees, and have been open for more than 5 years.
Right. Okay.
Once I have that list of companies, now I'm going to search for, and this is the gatekeeper part. Now I'm going to search for the right person that I want to talk to in that company. So if I'm searching for, real estate agents again, I don't want to talk to the broker, right? I want to talk to the agent who needs the leads. The broker's probably feeding them BS leads that, never pan out and they're paying too much for them and all this kind of stuff. I want to talk to the agent who wants to generate their own leads, but they work for a Remax Realty. They work for, they work for a Century 21 or a larger company. So I can filter them out. I also don't want to talk to the district manager because they're not selling houses. They're managing, 100 reps. So filter by company first, and then filter by area and lead second. And the way you can do this is once you generate an account filter list, you can import that into a lead filter list and really narrow down who it is you want to find. And that's the true power of Sales Navigator, is being able to filter down based on various aspects of a person's job title, company size, annual revenue, all these kinds of things, location, obviously. But that's what people miss is that account filter feature where you can really change the direction of your leads.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that might be the first thing that comes to mind was e-commerce searches. Not that easy if you're looking for people in job titles. No one's going to declare themselves as an e-commerce store owner, right? They're going to have owner at blank. So that's a very, very useful tip that I didn't really quite think about when it comes to other niches as well, like real estate agents and brokers, that kind of stuff. So starting with the account, starting with the account search first, very smart. What kind of what kind of phrases would you use for, or not phrases, but if you're going through accounts, would you just kind of segment it out through industries, or would you actually type in a phrase?
Well, let's start with your example of e-commerce, because I know it's a really popular category to go into for ad agencies. There's a lot of e-commerce stores out there, some big, some small. Yeah. If I want to target people that have been in the game for a while or for a long time, that have grown to a large company, I'm going to search based on company headcount, annual revenue, industry. And so if you just say e-commerce, that's great. But I would encourage you to niche down a little bit. Focus on people that run a clothing e-commerce brand, or jewelry, or makeup, or whatever other, maybe it's outdoor sporting goods or anything like that. But focus down. So use this account type to find the companies that are in the niche, sub niche that you want to target. If you just say all of e-commerce, you're going to be all over the place. Your monthly budget to find people is going to be spread too thin. So narrow down a little bit, and then narrow down a little bit more, right? If I'm going to target large e-commerce brands, because let's face it, e-commerce brands of all sizes outsource their marketing efforts. Some of them have internal marketing departments, but by and large, and here's the next powerful tip I'm going to give you, is a large e-commerce brand will have a marketing manager, and it will look like they have an internal team. Pretty often they don't. They have a director of marketing, but that person is outsourcing marketing. They're just in charge of it. And so by narrowing down the company first, and then you can search for director of marketing, head of e-commerce. And because, like, let's say a company like REI, right? Huge outdoor company. They sell all kinds of outdoor equipment and products. They advertise on Facebook, they advertise on Google, they advertise all over the place. They have a director of e-commerce. They have a director of marketing, also two separate people, but they outsource a lot of their marketing, right? So I want to penetrate that company, but I don't want to talk to the CEO. It's not the right guy,
right?
Or girl. It's not the right person. Right. I want to talk to the director of marketing probably, and they may direct me to talk to the director of e-commerce, or they may work in conjunction with me to figure out, how we can best help them. So that is very much where you can use e-commerce or marketing as a job title and be successful, because you've already narrowed down to the sub niche of the company type that you want and company size you want.
Right, man. That's a really powerful tip. I'm already thinking about how to leverage that. Like, because a lot of times you exclude, job titles based on what your expertise is in, right? So if you're doing e-commerce or you run a search on health and wellness supplement stores, whatever it is, right? And the job titles you want to exclude are marketing. You're not going to find that person, the director of marketing, at all. You're excluding that word in general. So that's interesting that you say that. So you can literally say, just for those that are, your mind's already starting to kind of spin as well. Life of a entrepreneur, I guess you could say. Right? It's like you start thinking about, if you're tired of outsourcing your marketing needs, blah blah blah. You're really just going straight for the message. But you're like, how did you know? How did they know that? Very, very powerful tip, man. That's gold. That is freaking gold right there. Yeah.
Well, here's a real world example of a client of ours. They're a marketing agency, among other things. They're very big, and they just became the agency of record for a Fox Corporation sub company, whatever you want to call it, a division of Fox Corp. So
Okay.
that's huge. And you would think a company as big as Fox, I mean, they've got Fox News, they've got Fox, they make movies, they've got all kinds of stuff. They own a portion of the world, of the WWE, right? Wrestling. They own a portion of
They
that.
do?
Fox owns all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
A company that big would have their own marketing internal teams.
Right.
They don't. And
Wow.
so if you think they're too big, they've got it all in house, take a chance because
Yeah.
they may surprise you.
Yeah, that's always been, yeah, when I was, I mean, this was probably like probably 8 years ago now. When I first jumped into like the digital marketing world, I was fearless, man. I was fearless. I didn't know much, right? It's one of those things where you learn more as you go, and you realize, oh my god, I'm in the wrong territory. I went to just a side note, a quick detour. I went to a Ty Lopez event, a live event, so I got to meet him and other awesome people. His business partner, Alex Mayer was there. It was cool, but I very much felt out of my element. And it's like all these people are here to grow their business, and I'm over here starting a business. You know what I mean? So it's very like much one of those things where like I need to just take a chance, shake hands, and meet people. And if they say no, they say no, no big deal. But when you you just take a chance and just kind of go after, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Basically, is kind of what you're going after too. Is just try it out, see what happens. Funny story is one of my now good friends. She was a mentor for a little bit. I was reaching out after help something the companies left and right, and she could have been like, "That's actually my job, right?" But instead, she was like, "Yeah, that's actually me. How can I help you?" And I was like, the cold email of all things. It was like something about like, hey, I want to talk to you about what your marketing needs. Would love to blah blah. Very like basic cold email, just manually, right? So I don't do automation yet. I'm just gonna make your life so much easier for those watching this automation conversation. But the point is, like, she was really cool. Like, you never know who you're gonna meet. Also, it might be your way in to bigger corporations like Fox. It might be might be introduced to someone else that could definitely use your services. There's always doors that can open up, and at the very least, you're getting experience, right? That's how I always look at it too. Is the experience of it all. Great, what went well, what didn't go well. And kind of use that as your framework to what goes next, kind of thing. So that is so interesting, though, man. Very very interesting that you brought that up, like the director of marketing. Huh. They don't actually do the work. They're the ones that are kind of overseeing it. So they're not happy. That's the person you talk to, not the CEO. Very, very awesome tip for sure.
And if you can build that relationship, even if it doesn't become a client relationship, they travel in circles also, and they can say, they're at a dinner party, or they're out having cocktails with their friends, or they're at a convention, whatever.
Right.
And somebody that doesn't have their own internal team, that maybe is a smaller company, is talking to them and saying, man, Jim, where did you, how does your team handle this kind of stuff? You could say, well, we have our own internal team, but I know somebody that can help you because, I've built this relationship with them. They do stuff for companies just like you, and boom, there's another lead that you didn't even know was there. You didn't have to cold reach out. You got an introduction. And so it's always good to know these people and expand your network, even if it doesn't mean they become a client.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. That's what's that saying? Your net worth is your network.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Related to your network. Yeah. That's always stuck. Just because it sounded cool. Never really grasped it for a long time until like the last 2 years or so. But yeah.
Is that an Alex Ramosi thing? It sounds like something he'd say.
It does sound like something he would say. I don't think it was him that I heard it from, which I'm sure he has his own unique thoughts on that phrase. That guy's a deep thinker, and sometimes he gets a little irritating. I'm not gonna lie. In a good way though. In a good way, it's like, why can't you just keep things simple? Like, just keep it simple. But that guy's just brilliant, man. Gotta say. Awesome, dude. Yeah, I love that. I love that we're going down the sales navigator conversation, because there's just so many things. I think when the first time I signed up for sales navigator, I think it was very overwhelming when I saw it, because there's just so many things to click on, so many things to kind of test out and do this, and when the numbers don't look right, it's kind of weird. Is there a certain number? I get this question a lot, actually, so I figured I would pick your brain again. I think you shared some knowledge with me previously. This was months ago. But is there a certain number of like a key range of people within a certain list that you kind of go for? I think some lists could be like 10 million, or they could be like 86, right? Is there like a sweet spot that you kind of look for?
There is, and we talked about those limits in some of the platforms earlier, being around 2,000. I typically try and keep my list in the 1,500 range. One was because we had to, and I didn't want to have to manually remember to refresh my list all the time. But two is that it gets your creative thought process going more if you do have to go in there and generate another list. So the way the Sales Navigator works, we touched on this, is that you're going to get an email. Like, you've created a search, you've created a list, and there's 1,500 people to meet this criteria.
Right.
A week from now, a day from now, a month from now, more people are going to meet that criteria because people change jobs, they update what's going on with them on LinkedIn all the time. So you might have 50 more people in a week, or 100 more people in a month. Well, in that time frame, you've tried to connect with a bunch of those people, and so it's good to keep bringing them in. But again, we talked about the broadness of your search, and if you have a list that has 5,000 people in it, you can't hit all of those people in a reasonable amount of time and try and send connection requests to them. And so what I take that to mean is that my search is too broad, and this means I'm creating more of a generic message, which is easier to spot as spam.
Yeah.
And so if you narrow that down to who you're talking to, you can be more personal, even though it's automated, even though it's generic to some degree, but you can be more personal because I'm talking to people that fit a pretty specific customer avatar. And so your message to them won't seem so generic, because it's going to have specific keywords in it that talk about things that relate very specifically to them and their job position or their company.
Gotcha. Very, very smart. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna have to revisit some of the things that I'm working on, just to kind of take a look at what the hell I'm doing now. No, I'm kidding. No, this is awesome, man. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you in and pick your brain on this, because you have a lot of experience within this territory. So
I've been doing this for quite a while.
Yeah. And I swear, every time we talk anything about this, like, you've learned new things. Like, well, great, let's update this every week then. So
Yeah.
like we said, like every month that goes by, it's like the equivalent of 3 months of change happening in a lot of ways. So that's awesome. Okay, so as far as, is there any downsides of using not necessarily downsides, but is there anything about Sales Navigator that you would declare not quite enjoyable versus, is the question I want to ask? I'm trying to think. I guess when it comes to in terms of using the other platforms we talked about last lesson, right, was you can do them just fine, but what kind of results would you expect throwing that gasoline, that fire on with using Sales Navigator versus not?
Yeah, I think that versus not. Well, there's a couple of things that I like about it. One is that let's take automation out of the equation for a second. And let's say you're just sitting on LinkedIn because you maybe have to make a budgetary choice, and it's either LinkedIn with Sales Navigator or LinkedIn with Sales Navigator plus one of the other tools we're talking about. You've got to choose. I can't do both right now, and I understand that happens. If I had to choose, I would choose Sales Navigator, LinkedIn with Sales Navigator, and wait on the other platform and automation. And here's why. Sales Navigator by itself allows you to break that 100 connection requests per week limit with what's called InMail. And InMail lets you send direct messages to people that you are not connected with. So if you're kind of new to the space, let me reiterate and let me back up a little bit. when you want to talk to somebody, like Sam, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. I cannot just send you a message like you can on other platforms. Facebook is one of them. I can't just send you a message out of nowhere and have it land in your inbox where I know you're going to see it. Facebook segments those out into message requests, right? So you can completely ignore it. LinkedIn takes it a step further, and I can't even send you a message. I have to connect with you first.
Right.
And therefore, if you don't come on to LinkedIn very often, or let's say you just message requests, they just sit in a queue and you never look at them, but your inbox is always there on LinkedIn. It's always there. Somebody messages you, it pops up, right? Email lets you get around that. You can send a certain amount of emails every single month, is included with your Sales Navigator package, and you don't have to be connected to the person.
Wow.
So if there's some people that you know, you've got the right messaging, you've tested it with in general with connecting with people and send messages, you know you've got a sequence that's going to resonate, and you want to penetrate a specific customer avatar, use email, because you don't have to get that connection request first. And then you can connect with them and then send a bunch of normal messages and do all the other things you do. But that's the power of it that you can't do with Expandy or with Ulink. Although Ulink is expanding into being able to send email as part of their platform, so that's powerful too.
Yeah, they do. They do now. They do have that now. Again, they're not quite explained the way that you did.
But also for people that are watching this and just starting out, if you've got to choose, I don't have $200 to spend right now. I've got 100. I can make 100 work. Go with Sales Navigator, sign a couple clients, and then start bringing in these other tools.
Awesome. I had no idea, to be honest with you. I had no idea that Sales Navigator even had that capability, which makes a lot of sense, because why else would you pay for a service that would extract targeted data off of people but not be able to put that list anywhere? So that's smart. How does that work on Sales Navigator exactly? Do you craft a single message or a series of messages similar to the other platforms, or?
So the way that Sales Navigator would work is you build your list, and then within Sales Navigator you have messaging. So you essentially have two tabs open in your browser. You have your LinkedIn tab open, and you have Sales Navigator. So instead of having to go back and forth, like I just saw Sam in my list, I'm gonna click on him, view his profile, and then try and connect with him. You can just send it from straight within Sales Navigator, message Sam right there. And if you're already connected, you can message. If you're not, you'll have the option to send an in-mail. That's hard to say.
In-mail.
And so in-mail. And mail makes it sound like an email. It's not. It's a direct message that will pop up in their messages inbox immediately.
Yeah, I always thought, I think for a good maybe even 6 months of using Ulink, because there was that in-mail option, and I'm like, cool. How does email play into all this? I don't get it. And again, to frustrate me even further, nothing on Ulink towards in-mail conversation was happening. So I had no idea what it even did. But it did say that there was like messages being sent out and connections being or messages being responded to, but from an in-mail, it's hard to say, from an in-mail message. I'm like, how did this? What? All right, cool. That sheds so much more clarity on this whole in-mail conversation topic. So thank you for doing that. That's something I've never actually heard of, was navigating it straight through Sales Navigator. So love that, man.
It's a really good way to manage your messages, is directly in Sales Navigator.
Yeah, managing that any other way, like just straight through LinkedIn, a lot harder. Everything's there versus the ones that are probably responded to. Like Sales Navigator segment out the responses versus the all out.
Not only that, but you can segment them by list. So today I want to talk to realtors, so I'm going to look at my realtors list. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to HVAC contractors, and the next day it's plumbing contractors, and whatever it is. You can segment them by list. So you don't have to just scroll through them. Geez, I know that guy was a realtor, but I can't remember his name. And this way, boom, show me all my realtors and look through.
Smart. Man, Sales Navigator is a lot smarter than I thought it was.
Very powerful. Very powerful.
I loved it. I never had a bad experience with it necessarily, so that was pretty cool. Is there any best practices that you want to kind of close off with Sales Navigator?
Best practices. I would say that you want to, again, keep your lead list in that 1,500 maximum range. Okay. Again, for what we're just talking about, searching through them, you still have to go find Lisa's name, right? But it's easier to do when your list is shorter.
Yeah.
And I would say really experiment with the filtering, and again, start with the account filtering, and then filter the accounts into the leads that match that account filter. Those are best practices for us. Again, a lot of people just use lead lists, and that's fine. But you can get really granular with the types of companies you want to talk to. Very smart. Using account lists.
And then also don't be afraid of getting in touch with the director of marketing. We learned that today. So awesome, man.
In that regard, take your cues from children, right? Children are fearless. They're not jaded. They don't know that they should be nervous about talking to somebody. Most 6-year-olds I know will go right up to anybody and just talk to them at the grocery store or whatever, right? They don't know that guy's a stranger. Yeah. They haven't been burned, right? Apply that to your prospecting. Don't be afraid to reach out to, if you want to interview, like let's say you're starting a marketing agency or you've had one and you're thinking about starting a podcast, reach out to Alex Ramosi and see if you want to be on it. He can't say yes if you don't ask him.
That's true.
People would say this guy's got 100 million followers and blah, 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 and you never know.
Yeah.
Why not?
How many times have you seen, I think I just read an email from like Dan Henry about how he got on, I think someone's podcast, where it was. And he was like, yeah, I can't believe I got on that. Like, it was a long shot, but I got on there. I'm like, well, there you go. Like, even people like in the space that are pretty well known in the territory, even they're getting, long shot, questions. They're feeling fearless. Like my 1-year-old does the same thing. Like he's walking up to everybody. So I'm like, all right, calm down. But yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. I love that. So I'm actually gonna go shoot some messages now because you've inspired me. So I'll see you later. No, I'm kidding. No, thank you so much. I appreciate you for jumping into the Sales Navigator conversation and actually diving into the platforms, shooting some of those too. So I appreciate you, and we'll chat again soon in the next lesson.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Sam.